Hello, everyone, and welcome to this video going over the notes for 6.1. These are the basics of this trigonometry unit. So if you missed class this day, you don't have these notes, make sure you get a copy of these notes so you can fill in the blanks and have these notes with you, which of course you will be able to use for the test. So trigonometry is the study of triangles. It's specifically the study of right triangles generally. We look at other triangles a bit, but we're mainly focused on right triangles. And of course, as you probably remember, a right triangle is a triangle with exactly one right angle. That's why we call them a right triangle. And remember that a right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. The other two angles in a right triangle are going to be acute angles. They're going to be less than 90 degrees. So if you look at this picture below, you'll see we've got a right angle here represented by this square. And then we've got two acute angles. These are both less than 90 degrees. So every right triangle is going to look like this. They're not necessarily in the same spots, but it will have one right angle, two acute angles that are less than 90 degrees. But specifically in trigonometry, we're often very concerned about the sides of the right triangle. And there's one side in particular that's very important. That is called the hypotenuse. You've probably heard this word before. It just means it's the longest side of the right triangle. The other way you can recognize the hypotenuse is it's always opposite the right angle or across from the right angle. So here we have the right angle. Across from it is the hypotenuse. This side is the hypotenuse. So I would recommend you label this diagram. We've got the hypotenuse over here. And then the other two sides are simply called legs. So this is leg number one. Oops. And this is leg number two. Doesn't matter which one's number one. They're both legs. Okay. So we've got the angles in a right triangle. We've got the sides. We've got a specific name for the longest side, the hypotenuse. In trigonometry, we often end up considering a specific angle. So for example, and I'll use a different color here. Let's say that I was focused on this angle here. Let's call it, I don't know, angle A. Now we can name the sides more specifically. The longest side is still going to be called the hypotenuse. However, now we can distinguish between the two legs. We don't just have leg number one and leg number two. Now we have the side across from the angle in question. In this case, leg number one is opposite angle A, and we actually call that the opposite side. Then we've got the side that's next to the angle, in this case, leg number two. It's not the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse always has that name. We call that the adjacent side. Adjacent just means next to. So now leg number one, we could also call the opposite angle A. And leg number two, we can call the adjacent to angle A. We'll go ahead and do a couple more examples, but make sure you have this example written down because you'll want as many of these as possible. Pause the video if you need to finish filling out the notes. And we will look at the bottom of the notes. Now we've got two examples. In each of these examples, we'll use the symbol theta to represent the angle we are concerned about. So look at this first one. We want to find the hypotenuse first. Of course, that's always the longest side, always the side opposite the right angle. So this will be the hypotenuse right here. Now we need to consider angle theta. This is just a Greek letter. It's part of the Greek alphabet. It comes up with angles sometimes. You don't need to remember how it's pronounced. But we need to figure out which side is opposite angle theta and which one is adjacent to angle theta. So opposite is just the side across from. So this will be the opposite side. And then adjacent just means next to. Of course, the hypotenuse is also next to this angle. So it's going to be the other leg. So we've got the hypotenuse, the opposite side, the adjacent side. We'll do the same thing with this one. Now, angle theta is in a different place. We got to find the hypotenuse first. Easy because it's across from the right angle. So here we have the hypotenuse. Then we want to find opposite this angle, which is going to be now up here, and find the adjacent next to this angle, the other leg that is not opposite the angle. So now that you've watched this video, hopefully you have a good understanding. If you don't, you can ask me, you can ask your classmates, and you'll go ahead and do a bunch of practice, just labeling the different sides, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, because these names become really important as we go further into trigonometry. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.